Hello, everyone. This is Misha Houston, and I'm here to do my review of The Haves and the Have Nots. Tonight's episode is entitled Hannah's Tea, and it was an okay episode. It really didn't impress me that much, but it had its entertaining moments, and I appreciated that. And I'm going to do my weekly review of the episode. Now, once again, I am not able to give you an in depth review with the pictures and the music because now my software is acting up. I need to have the episode, and I don't have the episode. And the episode that I do have, I can't take pictures from it. If you can offer me any help with this problem, please write it down in the comment section. But I am going to do as what I did last week. I'm gonna watch the episode scene by scene and give you my raw opinion of what I saw there. I have written a little bit here about a few of the scenes, but I don't think I'll be using it. So I'm just going to do as I did last week. Just watch the episode scene by scene on my tablet. I'm going to, give, my opinion and I'm going to summarize it as best I can. I wish that I could put my videos up here, as I normally have done in the past, but it's just not possible now. So, I mean, this is 2018, this is the year of change, and I'm going to have to change my format up, for a little while until I can get my software, up and running again. So, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for sticking with me, during this time, and hopefully the situation that I'm in, as far as my editing and my, incorporating of the pictures, will be resolved in time. So thank you so much, and hopefully things will get back on track for next week. Now, as I said before, the episode is entitled Hannah's Tea, and here we go. The first group of people we go to is Jim, Wyatt, and Justin. Now, Wyatt and Justin are, tussling and fighting and, battling each other on the floor. And Justin is winning the fight. Justin, Jim walks in and he says that he wants him to stay away from his son. He pulls Justin off of Wyatt and breaks them up and stands in between the two of them. And Justin is just hopping mad. He is just angry and so hurt and so upset by Wyatt constantly calling Jeffrey. Now, Jim is trying to figure out what's going on here, and Justin is just threatening Wyatt. He's threatening him, saying, "Don't you ever call him again." And Wyatt just wants him to leave. Jim, is irate with Justin and asks him who is he and what's his name and what's his badge number. Justin, is cursing at Jim, saying pretty much, who do you think you are, and all of this and all of that. And Jim, plainly threatens him, saying that my name is Judge Jim Cryer, and I'm gonna find out who you are, and you better hide, underneath some rock somewhere because I'm coming after you. Justin is making himself a lot of enemies. He's made one of David, he's made one of Veronica, he's made one of Jim. And it's just getting bad. It's getting bad. I mean, he's making way too many enemies now, and I'm hoping, that he'll be written out of the story, by the end of the season. I mean, Justin is just crazy. Justin, continues to threaten Wyatt, and then he leaves. Now, Jim and Wyatt are alone, and Jim is bewildered and wondering what's going on here. What is this all about? why is he so angry with you for calling Jeffrey? And then he jumps to the conclusion that Wyatt and Jeffrey, have something going on, and he, gives his blessing. He says, if something is going on between you and Jeffrey, go ahead. I don't care. He's a very attractive young man, and if that's what you want, then so be it. Now Wyatt, just wants Jim to leave. He doesn't want to be bothered with him, and I can't really blame Wyatt for that, considering all the hurt and the pain that he has caused him. But Jim refuses to leave, and then he, starts digging into Wyatt, trying to get him not to testify against him, trying to make it seem like it's gonna come to a bad end for Wyatt instead of Jim. But Wyatt is not fooled by any of this. Then Jim tells him that the apartment that you bought for $2 million is only worth $700,000. So he overpaid for that apartment by over $1 million. He makes it clear to Wyatt that no one taught you anything about money, and that was my fault. And then he starts to accuse Wyatt of him, just going back into the drug life without his parents in his life. But Wyatt, takes offense to all of that and tells him basically to go to hell. Wyatt accuses Jim of trying to tamper with a witness and intimidate him. But Wyatt, is unmoved by any of this. Jim thinks he'll wind up in the gutter, and he is going to one day want to come crawling back home. But Wyatt tells Jim that you and my mother are no longer together, and the house burned down. So there is really no home to crawl back to. Jim, in his ego, just refuses to face the fact that Catherine has left him, and so has Wyatt. And he just tells Wyatt, "You have completely underestimated me." And Wyatt says the same thing, vice versa. Jim says you're gonna crawl back, and Wyatt says, "No, I'm never coming back, no matter what." And I can't really blame Wyatt for that. Jim and Catherine have caused him a lot of pain, a lot of pain. So, Wyatt isn't coming home. He just basically tells him to get out of here and never to come back, and Jim leaves the apartment. The next group of people we go to is Veronica, the doctor, and the police officer. Now, a doctor comes into Veronica's hospital room and basically just tells her that everything checked out. They ran a few tests, but the test came back clear and fine, and she can be discharged if she wanted to. Now, he also tells her that a police officer, is outside wanting to speak with her. She says it's fine, and the doctor leaves, and the policewoman comes in. I think her name is Police Officer Delaney. Police Officer Delaney. And she asks her a series of questions about what happened. Veronica tells her that there was a car, a black truck, a late model black truck coming up from behind her, ramming her, and trying to drive her off of the road. She did not see the person's face, but she did give a decent description of the truck and, what kind of truck it was, and that it was a late model vehicle. The officer asked, was it road rage? But Veronica says no, it was just someone that came from out of nowhere and started to ram her truck. And also, the officer asked, does she have any kind of enemies? And Veronica says that she represents a lot of bad people. She's a lawyer, so she could have enemies. But it has nothing to do with her being a lawyer. And it has nothing to do with her job. It has something to do with her personal life and how she treats people. But she doesn't tell that to the officer. The officer, is starting to get upset with Veronica because she's throwing out all of these backhanded insults to her. But eventually, the officer, asked all of her questions, and they were pretty straightforward questions. And she asked her one last one: "If you remember anything, make sure you call me." But Veronica says that I'll be calling your boss instead because you don't look too bright. So Veronica is back, being snotty and hateful toward people. And the police officer, just pretty much walks out of the room and leave her alone to get changed so she can be discharged from the hospital. Now Veronica picks up her cell phone and she calls Benny, saying that she's going to be discharged and for her to call her back. So that's pretty much, what happened in that scene. Veronica is starting to get, hateful again. All of the niceness that she had in the previous episode is starting to melt away, and she's turning right back into the person that she was before. So, I mean, apparently she hasn't learned anything from the accident. She's still this, hateful, spiteful person and miserable, and she just wants everyone to be miserable with her. So, we'll have to see what happens later on. The next group of people we go to is David, Veronica, Justin, and a little cameo from Candace. Now, David is plainly and clearly upset about Jeffrey being in prison. He calls Veronica and he is asking her, "Why did you put my son here? What's going on here? Why did you put our son in prison?" She tries to make it all about herself, about the accident that she suffered, but David, does not want to talk about her. He just wants to talk about Jeffrey. She says that our son wants to be with boys, and she thought that prison was the best place for him. He is completely and totally disgusted, with Veronica, and says that you are nothing but a hateful and manipulative person. And, Veronica pretty much has all the power in this situation, like she normally does. And David, wants, for Veronica to retract her statement to the DA, but she refuses to do so. And David, is powerless, to stop this, as he's always been in the past. I mean, it's always been such an imbalance, in that marriage. And I'm not surprised that he finally left. Not so much for the affair, which was very much, the the thing that broke, the straw that broke the camel's back, but it was also because she emasculated him and made him feel like he was worthless and powerless. She was always in control, and he, couldn't put up with it anymore. So he, made it clear that he was leaving her. Now, he is very upset, and she refuses, to acknowledge Jeffrey. She just wants him in prison. She can't control him. He says that you can't control him, but she is really, really trying to. But it's not gonna happen. I mean, Jeffrey is gay. He can't get out of being gay any more than he can get out of being a black man. It's just who he is. But she refuses to accept that. And he insults her and harasses her over the phone. But there's pretty much nothing that David can do about it at this time. Then, after the hang up, he gets another call. And he immediately starts cursing and calling Veronica a bitch and all kind of other names. But it is just Erica on the phone. He apologizes to Erica for what he said. He thought that he was talking to Veronica, and he tells her that Veronica did something terrible. She says that she just needs to go and run some errands, and that he's cool with that, and they pretty much, hang up the phone after that. David leaves the front room, and then he goes to see Justin sitting at his desk, and he wants to talk to Justin, but Justin really doesn't want to talk to him. He's been found out in front of a few fathers. He's attacked Wyatt, and Jim, his father, stepped in, and then he has been abusing Jeffrey, and then David, Jeffrey's father, stepped in. So he's making a lot of enemies, really, really fast. David, tells him plainly, what's going on between you and my son? Justin denies it, saying that there's nothing going on. He says that I know that my son is a gay man, but Justin doesn't even acknowledge that he is gay, which is very strange because in the last week's episode, he was saying, "Oh, you're never gonna leave me, Jeffrey." I mean, he so wants Jeffrey, but he won't even acknowledge, to himself or to the world that he is a gay man. Now, David, challenges him and tells him, guess what? There's a video out there that says otherwise. He also tells him that I read the police report, regarding Quincy's body. Justin was at the scene. And Justin, confirms that. He says, yes, I was an officer there. And then David, smiles and says, hey, you've made this easy for me. You need to stay away from my son. And, Justin, puts up the false front and pretends like he doesn't know what he's talking about. But David says, I'll make you look worse than the detective in the OJ trial. I'll ruin you. He says that I can make it seem like you planted those keys in that body, in that house, to make it seem like you're nothing but some jilted lover. He warns him again to stay away from my son. And then David leaves. The next group of people we go to is Candace, Jeffrey, and a female police officer. Now, in the last scene, I said that Candace made a cameo. Well, as David was leaving, from talking with Justin, Candace was brought in handcuffs and sent, to the prison block. Now, while she's back there, the female police officer sits her down on a bench right there next to Jeffrey. It was very contrite and very obvious, but anyways, anyhow, they're sitting in there and they're talking, to each other, Jeffrey and Candace. And Candace, is pretty much saying just to relax. But Jeffrey is freaking out. Jeffrey is completely and totally freaking out. He's saying that he's only been in here a few hours, but he just can't be in here anymore. He says he points at his cellmate and says how disgusting he is, and he says how rude and unruly the other inmates are, and he says that he can't take this. He just can't put up with this. Candace, is trying to reassure him and telling him, basically that everything is going to be fine. I'm in here, of course, but it's going to be okay. She always says that it's all going to be okay. Everything is okay with Candace, and that is what she's telling Jeffrey. Now, Jeffrey, starts running off at the mouth. He starts talking about Candace's part in it and Benny's part in it. And, she's just basically telling him, you need to stay quiet. You need to be quiet. Don't say another word. Because, and that's true because he will be only incriminating himself. He's not going to get a free pass on this by incriminating Candace. It's, somebody died. Somebody died, and Jeffrey was the one who killed the man ultimately, and he's he's gonna have to go to trial. But Candace assures him that your father knows about this, and that he is going to be your lawyer. He's going to argue for you. And I mean, that it's not over, and she's just comforting him and just trying to tell him you just need to be quiet and just wait it out. The female officer comes back into the room where Candace and Jeffrey are, and she tells them not to talk to the prisoners, the other inmates or the other prisoners, and she takes Candace and walks her, out of the prison block. The next group of people we go to is Benny, Mitch, Melissa, and Veronica. Now, Mitch goes up the stairs and hears moaning. Two people, the moaning of two people having sex. He listens up against the door, and then he opens the door, and then he sees Benny and Melissa having sex. And Benny, tells him to close the door and get on out of there. He goes down the stairs and says, Benny, come on, we gotta go. Just then, Veronica walks in. She's been discharged from the hospital, and she just, is exhausted and she just wants to rest. Mitch says that, Benny is upstairs and he is, trying to get her clothes ready to take to her. He pretty much sits her down and, tells her to relax and sit down. And I'll go up the stairs and get Benny. Now, Mitch goes flying back up the stairs and back into the bedroom where Benny and Melissa are. And he tells them both that Veronica is downstairs. She's downstairs right now. He gets himself up off of Melissa, and Melissa doesn't want him, to stop, but he gets up off of her anyway. And he puts his clothes back on, and he tells her that this was a mistake and it can't be repeated. He puts his clothes on, and then as he's putting his clothes on, Melissa is naked and she has no intention of putting her clothes back on. She tells Mitch that Benny didn't finish. You want to come over here and get started? I mean, she's willing to hop from one man to the next without even taking a bath. She just rolled out of bed with one man and is willing to stay completely nude and have another man, come on, with it and finish the job of having sex with her. But Mitch, declines, and Benny declines, and then they both leave and go downstairs. Now, Mitch and Benny go downstairs, and Veronica is sitting on the couch. And he smiles at her and tells her, how is she? And she says that she's fine and, everything is cool. Then Melissa comes down the stairs and she's wearing, what she had on, last week, with the robe and the bra and the underwear. Veronica, sees this and, tells her to put some clothes on. Put your clothes on, and, pretty much cover yourself up. And then Melissa, realizes that Benny and Veronica had sex before. She realizes that. They're fighting with each other and they're making threats to each other and insulting each other. And Benny and Mitch just pretty much want to get out of there. But Veronica asks Benny, can you take me upstairs and help me up the stairs? And Benny says yes. Now, Benny, and Veronica go on upstairs while Melissa and Mitch are downstairs. She stands up on the couch in her high heels and says, pretty much, is it true what they say about tall men? She, starts to throw herself at Mitch, but Mitch declines the offer and pretty much just goes outside and gets in his car. Now, upstairs, Benny, sits Veronica down on her bed and, she calls him my hero. You saved my life. And she asks to be kissed and he kisses her a couple of times. She says that if I had my way and if I wasn't so hurt, we would be in bed together right now. Benny politely declines. she wants to know if he'll come by and see her again, later on tonight or tomorrow. And he eventually says yes, he'll come by later on. Benny leaves the room, and Veronica goes on into the bathroom. Now, outside in the hallway, Melissa, tries to hit upon Benny again, but Benny declines her offer and leaves her standing there, and she says that this is not over. Now, outside of the house, Benny, comes out, and he's, zipping up his pants, and he gets into the car, and Mitch is laughing at him. Mitch is laughing at that entire situation. He thinks it's funny. Benny, says, don't laugh at me, don't tease me about this, just be quiet. He says that Melissa was touched, that she was absolutely and totally crazy. But Mitch asked him, "Why did you sleep with her?" And he said that she was sexy and she had a nice ass. What a typical man would say. He didn't turn it down when she offered, and he accepted her offer. He says that you ought to be, sleeping with that Veronica chick. She's the one with the money. She's the one with the ends and a way to help him. But Benny says no. He knows Veronica. He knows not to go near that, not to go down that road with her because it'll only lead to trouble. Mitch sees Veronica, looking out of the window, and Mitch just wants to get out of there. And eventually, he puts the car in reverse and he backs up out of the driveway and leaves. The next group of people we go to is Catherine, Hannah, Derek, and the new maid. Now, Hannah drives up the long driveway to Catherine's house. She's outside waiting for her, and it's a very, very beautiful house. It's a beautiful plantation house that was built, in the late 1800s. They meet at the door and they hug, and then Catherine pretty much shows her around the house, in the bathroom, the bedroom, the beautiful grand staircase, and into the living room. They chit chat a little bit, and then they go on back into the kitchen, and the new maid is there, and Hannah, is there to teach the new maid how to do the job. The new maid is a little bit nervous, by the connection between Hannah and Catherine, but Hannah tells her that I'm not here to step on your toes. I'm just here to help you out, and the new maid is very pleased with that. Catherine says that Hannah is just like family and knows a lot about, about her and what she needs and about her family itself. Um, the new maid is pleased with it, and Hannah is happy to help the new maid out. Then Derek comes into the room. The handyman comes in to the room, and Catherine immediately starts, to kind of nudge the two of them together. He, is surprised, for this, surprised by all of this, but he goes along. And Hannah is surprised by it too. And Catherine, tells the new maid, to come on out of the room so the two of them can talk to each other. Now, Hannah, doesn't like that. She doesn't like being set up, on a date with anyone, but Catherine's will be done. So Hannah and Derek are in the kitchen together, and Catherine has told Hannah to make some tea for the two of them, and they can have their coffee date there. And Hannah, is willing to oblige. Now, they're talking in the kitchen, and she's, it's very nice. It's a very, very nice scene. It's a nice change for Hannah. She's been so angry and so, alone these past, few seasons, that it's nice to see her, with a good guy like Derek. Derek seems like a really, really nice guy. They talk about Hannah making tea for them, and she eventually, does it. Then, Derek, starts, talking about himself. He says that he is a widower and that he was married for 30 years and he has three, sons in college. He's a proud papa, you can tell. And he's also a deacon, at another church, which Hannah is very much impressed by. She hears him talk, and he quotes scriptures for her, and he pretty much seems like a good guy, a nice fit for Hannah. She apologizes to Derek, saying that I thought that you were nothing but a dog, that I misjudged you. And he says, I'm not that kind of way. I've been married for 30 years, but my wife died of cancer, and that he is lonely. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, he was married a long time. He knows what it's like to be in a long-term relationship. He's not sniffing around, going from here to there. He knows what commitment is, and Hannah is impressed by it. She warms up to him, and it's nice for her to see. It was actually one of the nicest scenes of the episode. It was a lovely change. There's so much sniping, and there's so much hatred and anger and all of this and all of that, and it was nice just to see two people talk to each other and enjoy each other. And it was actually one of my favorite scenes. So for Tyler Perry, I really appreciated that scene. The house was very beautiful. I enjoyed it. It was definitely one of my favorite scenes, of the night. So, two thumbs up for, Catherine, for Derek, for Hannah, and that entire scene. I thought it was absolutely beautiful and very lovely. The last scene of the night belongs to Candace and Laquita Maxwell. Quita is back. Now, Candace is being put into the cell, and her cellmate is Quita. Quita is very, very pleased that Candace is locked up. She is so happy about that, and she throws it up in Candace's face. She is very hurt and upset and knows exactly what happened to her brother, Quincy Maxwell. She blames Quincy's death on Candace. And Candace, knew the kind of person that he was. He was violent and dangerous and crazy. And she, pretends like she doesn't know anything about what happened. But she says that if she, did kill him, he deserved it. I mean, we all know who Quincy was. Quincy was just this horrible person. You can look back in the previous episodes, and, it will show you exactly the kind of person that he was. Now, Quita, is upset, and she knows the truth now. She's vindicated. She absolutely knows the truth now. She knows that Quincy was there at the house. She knows that her theory about him being killed was true. And she is very, very upset with Candace and disgusted with Candace because he was buried, in the backyard and didn't even have a proper funeral. She says that Quincy loved Candace, and trying to play that card. But as I said before, we all know who Quincy was. He was not a good man. He was very dangerous, very violent, very crazy, very abusive to Quincy Jr. And Candace, could care less that he, supposedly loved her. Now, Quita says, what goes around will come back around in time. And she, is hinting toward Quincy Jr. Quincy Jr., little Quincy was killed. And, Quita, says what goes around comes around. And, she says that he was with me until your brother Benny came and took him away from Quita. Cutting her check, in half. because pretty much Quita was just using that boy, for the money, that she was receiving from the state. She never really took care of him. She didn't, she was just using him. And all the while, Candace is really, really getting upset. You can see it in her, she's turning red. She is really, really upset and wanting Quita to just shut her mouth. But Quita, goes on and continues to goad her and says that your son was with me and he was being taken care of. And now he's dead, shot up in a bathroom. And she says that the death of Quincy, triggered the death of Quincy Jr. And Candace, is getting upset. She's just getting upset. She's getting hurt. Yeah, she's getting upset and she's getting hurt. And Quita says, at least with me, your son was still alive. Candace, just snaps. She just snaps and she leaps on Quita and starts hitting her, and they roll around on the jail floor. And apparently, Candace is tearing her hair out because there are pieces, locks of her hair on the floor of the jail. So they're tussling and they're fighting with each other, and the other inmates are laughing and jeering at them. And that is where our episode ends. The ending was very good. I enjoyed the beginning and I liked the middle. But, as a whole, the episode really, in my opinion, really wasn't that great. But it did have its moments. So for that, I appreciate it. And I say thank you, Tyler. Thank you so much for watching my video. Come back next week for the next episode. The next episode is entitled Every 6 Months, and it looks very interesting. My MVP is Kate, for getting Hanna and Derek together. So for that, I have named her my MVP. Make sure you come back next week for the next installment of The Haves and the Have-Nots. If you like my video, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will be back next week with the next episode. Enjoy your life as I do, and have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.